Hello and welcome to the Toronto District School Board's Central Student Interest Programs application. We will be going over how to complete this application as well as some frequently asked questions. When you click on the application link, it's going to bring you to a landing page that looks like this. From here, you can either sign in or create an account to complete an application. Now, the difference between the two is that if you have ever created a PowerSchool enrollment account before, you can reuse the same account and sign in. PowerSchool enrollment is the tool that we use to complete these online forms. If you have never completed a PowerSchool enrollment form before, you will need to create an account. If you're not sure whether you've created an account before or not, you can either do one of two things. The first thing you could do is you could click Forgot Password, and you'll receive a temporary password sent to the email that we have on file. Or you can click Create an Account, and as you're creating your account, if the system recognizes the email that you're trying to use, it will flag it as an error and let you know that an account has already been created. From there, if you see that the account has already been created, you can then click Forgot Password and receive the credentials to sign in. Okay, so let's go ahead and assume that you've never completed a PowerSchool enrollment form before, and let's go ahead and create an account. When we're creating an account, the system will ask you for a couple of required fields before you can finish up here. It will ask for an email address. If you don't have an email address, you can create an account using your cell phone number. However, please keep in mind, you will be asked for an email address when you start completing this application form. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. We are going to complete our profile here. I'm going to use some fake information. I would imagine that when you are completing your account creation, you would probably want to use your actual information. When you're completing your password here, the system will prompt you to utilize a certain format. The password must be at least 6 characters long, and it must contain at least 2 character types. So for example, a symbol and a letter, or letters and numbers, that kind of thing. So next, it's going to ask us for a security question. So let's go ahead and choose some questions that we can easily remember. Okay. And then we just have to check off this box here, affirming that you are 13 years or older. And we can go ahead and create the account. Perfect. Once we've created the account, it's going to bring us to this area here, and it's going to ask us to add a student. So what you're going to do is you're going to add the student that you are trying to apply for. If you have more than one student you need to submit an application for, don't worry. Just complete your first student, and once you complete that application, you'll be prompted to add an additional student. So let's start with our first student. Let's complete this for Batman. So once we've added our student, it's going to bring us directly into Batman's application form here. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to look through this introduction page carefully. It's going to provide some additional information about the application, as well as instructions on how to complete the form. It's also going to give you some tips about completing an application for an additional student. So with this application, what we're going to do is we're going to complete the full application for our first student, Batman, and then once we submit, we can start our next application if you have an additional student. Okay, so once I'm done reading this introduction page, I can click this little next button here to move on to the next page. On the form, we have this little Google Translate button here. So if you need to change any of this wording into a different language, you can just click this button and it will allow you to easily translate that information. For example, we can just copy and paste. Once we're ready to begin the form, we can just scroll down here. You'll notice that Batman test is already pre-populated for me because I already said this is the student I would like to complete the form for. So we have all the information we previously submitted, so their first name, last name, and their date of birth here. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is we're just going to need to go through this form and complete any of these required fields. So anything with a little required tab does need to be completed. So you can go through this form here. Add in your gender. Once you get to the student's primary home address section, it will ask you to enter in the applicant's primary home address. And at the end, it will ask you to validate the address. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through, we're going to put in the information that's required here. And move forward. As you can see, I made a little mistake on my keyboard, and instead of putting the number 4, I put a $sign. The system will stop us because it is going to require that you put in the correct formatting for a postal code. So I'm going to go back here and I'm just going to replace the $sign with the number 4. It's going to ask you if the address is a multi-tenant building complex, so something like a townhouse, an apartment, a condo, anything that has a number associated to it aside from your street address. So if you select yes, it will allow you to enter in the unit type and the unit number. If you don't live at a particular unit, you can just put no. Once I'm done here, we can click Validate Address, and it's going to give us a nice green message when we are done. Before I move on, I just want to review some other instances you may see with Validate Address, just for those who may be stuck on some of these messages. If I go back here and I update my address, let's say, like I did earlier, I made a mistake with actually entering the information, or life is busy. maybe I'm multitasking here. So I didn't write in my town or my city, sorry, correctly here. When I click Validate Address, it's now going to ask me a different question. It's going to say, is this address correct? So it's giving me a suggestion for North York instead of North York, and allowing me to update my address so that it is more correct. So we can click Confirm. Once I'm done validating my address, I can click Next to continue to the next page. On the Program Choice page, we have a couple of things happening here. The first thing you'll notice is we do have this little icon on the top right-hand side. Now this is just the Google Translate button. So if you require translation services for any of these questions, you will have the ability to click on this little icon on every page. So now we're just going to complete this question here. So does Batman currently attend a TDSB school? This would be the current year. If you do attend a TDSB school, it will ask for your current grade and current school. It will also ask for your student number, but if you don't know it, that's okay. You can just skip over that. Next, it's going to ask for your OEN number. If you do not know the student's Ontario education number, you can skip this question. Otherwise, there's a little hint here you can open up to show you where that number may be found. The next area is going to ask you for your program selection. So we're going to choose our enrolling grade. So that's the grade the student plans to attend in the 23-24 school year. So my student is a current grade 8 student, so I'm going to select grade 9 as their enrolling grade. You can then select your program choice. As you'll notice, only one school choice is required. The second school choice is optional. So we can go in here and we could go ahead and select our school, our program, sorry. So let's say Leadership Pathway at RH King. If you try to enter in the same school choice more than once, the system will stop you. So you only need to select the same program choice once. At the bottom here, it's going to ask you for an alternate choice selection. So for example, if in the random selection process, the student is not selected to be able to attend RH King Academy for Leadership Pathway, if this program was offered at more than one school, would you be willing to receive a seat at a different school? If you're all right with that, you can select yes. Otherwise, you can select no. The next page here will allow you to self-identify your student. So it's going to ask, does your child self-identify as any of the following? Please select all that apply. So if your child self-identifies as more than one, you can select more than one. Or if your student does not self-identify as any of these options here, you can just move forward to the next page. On the leadership pathway page, this page will show up because I've chosen a leadership pathway program. You'll notice you will have a unique page set up here depending on which program choices you selected. On this page, you will be required to complete a student survey. You'll notice there's a little red box here that is telling you to select at least one option from above. So you can go ahead and select as many options as you want here, but you do have to select at least one. The next section here will ask us to find our school. So what that means is we'll be clicking on this link to find the school that serves our home address, so within our boundaries. So we're going to click here, and we are going to enter in the street name of where we live. So in our case, we live at 63 Snapdragon Drive. So what I'm going to enter in here is just Snapdragon. I'm not going to enter in the street numbers or the street type. I'm just going to enter in Snapdragon and click search. It's then going to show me that the secondary school within my address is Sir John A. Macdonald. So if we go back to our form, is RH King Academy listed as a student's designated school by address? It is not. It's Sir John A. Macdonald, so I'm going to write no. Okay, we can then move on to the next area here. We just need to certify by checking off these boxes. Hopefully you are reading them and checking them off instead of what I'm doing here. We're then going to have our student sign electronically to make sure that they understand, and then put in today's date. Once we're done, we can move on to the next page. Once we get to the contact information page here, we are going to enter in the primary parent, guardian, or caregiver information. I'm going to enter in my phone type. Let's say I'm going to give my mobile phone. And then I'm going to enter in my primary email address. Once we get to the acknowledgement page, we can ignore anything that is meant just for TDSB staff and scroll on down to actually look at the parent, guardian, caregiver acknowledgement here. So you can read through this carefully, and once you're done, you can just go ahead and sign, date, and check off this we agree button. For the purpose of our training today, I'm just going to ignore this to show you what happens when you don't complete all of the required questions. Once I click next, it's going to bring me to a summary page, and this is going to let us know how we did. All of the pages that have been completed correctly will have this nice green check mark next to the page name here. If you see this little red mark here with a number, it will represent the amount of required or invalid fields that are remaining on the form that do need to be corrected before you'll be able to submit. As you can see, the submit button here has been grayed out. We will not be able to submit this form until we figure out, what issues are here and resolve them. In order to find our invalid fields, we could either click on the name of the page here, and it'll take us directly there, or we can just click on this button called Find Invalid Fields. It's going to take us directly to the field that we forgot to fill out here, and you'll also know the required button is bright red now, just to grab our attention. So we can go ahead, click the check mark here, and then move back to the summary page. Now we can see the full form has been completed. We are good to go. The submit button has no longer been grayed out here, and we can just click submit. Once you complete your form, you're going to be brought to a submission confirmation page here, where you'll have a couple of additional steps that you can take. The first is to print a copy of the completed form for your records. So if you would like to, download a PDF of everything you completed on this form, you can click on this completed form link here, and it will just either open or download a PDF. You can also complete a feedback survey. So if you want to provide any feedback about this process, you can click on this link and it will allow you to complete a quick survey. The last next step here is optional. If you have an additional student who would also like to apply to a Central Student Interest Program, you can click here. So just this link here, and it will allow you to complete an additional form. If you want to complete this additional form, just click on the link, and it's going to bring you to this new page here, where it's going to allow you to add an additional student. So as we can see above, Batman test has already been submitted. So we can add additional students. Let's say we want to complete a form for Spider-Man test. We can go ahead and do that. So I'm going to add this additional student to my account. Once you add a sibling here, it will give you an additional choice here. So you've already submitted this form for Batman. Would you like to import the relevant information to save time? So you can click this import button in order to copy over any family-specific data you already entered in for your previous student. So things like contact information, address information, that fun stuff. So we can click import. If you do not want to import data between siblings, you can just start from scratch. Otherwise, you can click import and click continue. Now we are in Spider-Man's form. For an additional sibling, you're going to follow the exact same process you followed for the first sibling. The only thing I would like to just demonstrate is that some data was pre-populated for us. So some data was copied over between siblings. If you can't complete the form in one sitting, that is absolutely all right. In order to save and sign out, all you have to do is just click on your initials here. So mine is PE for Power School Enrollment. You can click on your initials here, and you can click this Save and Sign Out button. So you can click Save and Sign Out. And what it is going to do is it's going to sign me out. Now, you'll notice we're back at that initial screen for sign in or create an account. Since we've already created our account, we can actually just sign back in whenever you're ready to complete the form again. So you can come back to this landing page, use your credentials in order to sign in. So these are the credentials you created when you were creating your account. If you have come back to complete your form and you do not remember your credentials, you can just click Forgot Password and you will receive a temporary password to help you log in. So let's go ahead and sign back in. We are going to be brought to this area here where we can continue our in-progress form. So we have one in-progress form. You're just going to click on this form here, and it's going to bring you right back where you left off into Spider-Man tests form. and we can continue here. Thank you so much for joining me today as we went through the Central Student Interest Programs application. If you do have additional questions, there are some FAQs that you can review, or you can contact either your current school or the school that you wish to apply for. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.